Hello and welcome to Raising Remarkable Teenagers episode. I am so excited. And for those of you that are watching on video, you can see we've got our lovely guest Tamara waiting on there. I am so excited today because we're going to be talking about careering for our young people. And just before we go in there, if you haven't joined the Raising Remarkable Teenagers movement, you want to do that today. And you need to go to raisingremarkableteenagers.com/class and join this movement where we as parents are learning and arming ourselves to raise remarkable teenagers, teenagers who are highly effective. And today we've got ourselves here, Tamara Raymond, and Tamara is going to be speaking to us about careering. Tamara is careering and leadership coach for young people. And Tamara, if you just want to introduce yourself and let's do this because I know you've got so much to give and I can't wait to hear this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. One of the things that I've really appreciated about being here today is being able to have that relaxed, real conversation. And I'm excited to get information out to parents today about careering. And that is sort of a word I'm coining to mean career exploration. So taking steps towards procuring a profession or venture. Okay. So whether that looks like finding your perfect career, starting a business, you name it. So that's just a little bit about what careering is. And how this, I ended up being a leadership coach or writing my book. That's quite the story. My background is actually in human resources, as a human resource executive, recruiter, you name it. Also a teen who was a little anxious, to say the least, about figuring out what was next for me. And eventually became a coach, a leadership development coach. And it's very interesting because working with people who, were in mid to late career even, I would hear the questions, if only I had known, or I wish someone had. And, in my HR world, I would create internship programs for young people. And that's sort of my heart project, working with teens. And, there are certain things I saw, and it's as if there was a persistent complaint or a consistent missing. And so I thought, what can I do about that? And to do that, I said, okay, how am I going to fulfill on making a difference? Which is in helping to support creating leaders, which is who I say I am in the world. What would that look like? And for someone who, doesn't like to write, believe it or not,
That's interesting.
the book. Very interesting. Created, Careering, the Pocket Guide to Exploring Your Future Career. And that's one of the things that I speak to in the book, and I speak to with my clients and with teens is, when you find something that you're a stand for, or that's important to you, the day-to-day doing, you find yourself doing things that you may not normally have done before. There might be slight discomfort in things such as, public speaking. Being on this podcast, I am very much an introvert.
You don't look like
I don't like introvert, but I am an introvert. I don't look, I know, right? But my commitment to making a difference is stronger than me, possibly feeling uncomfortable for a few minutes.
Wow. Do you know what you said? It just something came into my heart about what you said, and this is for all of us here. I know all of us here are parents of teenagers, and some of us had the that feeling. You the feeling you described was, I can speak for myself. When the baby is about to come out, you know, you you're willing to go through the pain.
Yep, you're willing to do anything. for
Yeah,
this little life, this person are just meeting for the first time, but you love beyond anything you could have imagined. And
absolutely.
hearing young people, the level of anxiety that goes along with figuring out what's next,
Mm,
was astounding. Understandable, mind you, but
yes.
astounding, because there's a lot that goes along with that.
Mm,
There is, dealing with the unknown, which is comfortable for all of us.
yeah.
And there is wanting to please your parents. And
Yes.
there is, what am I going to do with my life? So there are all these things that are coming up, and you love your parents, you care about your parents, and you don't want to disappoint them. But
Mm,
at the same time, you're looking at, oh, wow, is this what I really want to be doing?
mm,
My family's been in medicine. My grandfather was a doctor, my father was a doctor. He wants me to be a doctor.
yeah.
That's not necessarily where I see myself going.
Mm.
What do I do? you know? So
So what
I,
I'm hearing you say, for
mhm,
our young people, what you have noticed, there's a lot of anxiety in
yes.
making that choice, in making that decision of what route shall I take and who shall I become in terms of profession. And I must say there is a lot of there's a lot of pressure sometimes on our young people to like decide, okay, what do you want to become, what do you want to become. So I would like for you to explain to us, and also to bring light to this bit of sort of, it's a clouded area where our young people, they don't know what they want. Most of them don't know what they want to become. I can speak for myself. I mean, when I was younger, I changed so many times about who and what I wanted to become. And it's honestly, so how do you cope with that, or how can you advise a young person, or how can you advise parents how how we can deal with our young people? Because, for example, at the moment, I have a teenage girl, you all know. One day she wants to be an orthopedic doctor, the next day she wants to be an athlete, the next day she wants to be an actor. And I'm like, okay, where, so how do you reconcile that?
That is perfectly normal. And guess what? It's perfectly okay. So, one of the things that I emphasize is, sharing my own story and
Mm,
experience, and letting them know that wherever you are, it's okay. And you're not alone.
mm,
You're not the only one, you're not the first, and you definitely won't be the last, person to have these concerns. And as parents, I have many kids that I was fortunate enough to not have to give birth to. My teenagers right now, the questions that they ask is usually around, um, I want to do this, is that okay? Or, you know, what do I do?
mm,
What are the next steps? And here's what I always say:
mm.
explore, try it. So because what I find is a lot of time there's the idea of what these teens might think they want their profession to be.
Mm,
And then there's reality. And
yes.
you as parents know this better than anyone possibly could.
Mm,
And so if someone says, oh, I want to be a writer, then that'd be great. Nice to be supportive in, saying, hey, why don't you try that? Why don't you try writing? Why don't you try writing, this short story? And
mm.
that came about with one student, sorry, because they loved English class.
Uh-huh.
Right? Loving English class does not necessarily mean, that you would become a great writer and that's what you love and that's what you want to do. And
Mm,
so this particular teen tried writing and it's like, okay, that's clearly not it. I
mm.
don't get it. And so having her think about and reflect on what in English class she liked. And it was not writing the paper as much as being able to share her point of view,
Yeah.
to express, to debate. And so from there, she actually took advantage of the resources that are close to her, which is
Mm.
another thing I encourage. And that was, debate team, debate
Nice.
team, young legal, the Young Legal Association at her
Mm.
school. So she had the opportunity to really explore.
Yeah.
So all these are ideas, but what can you do to get exposure to these ideas? Can
Mm.
you reach out to someone? And this is where parents are key. Who do you know in your network? Is it your profession? Are there other family members or friends who might be a doctor, might be a mechanic, might be a teacher,
Mm.
whatever is of interest, who your team can have a conversation with, can have an informational interview with,
Mm.
can even better spend a day in the life of, is it someone they can shadow?
Mm.
um, are there internships that allow them to get some exposure? So there's sort of this see, touch, feel experience
Yeah.
that is very different sometimes from the idea of what that profession might be.
Oh.
And one of the things I do encourage students to do is to reach out to those closest to them, their parents, their guardians, their family members, because that's usually the untapped resource.
Mm. So what I'm hearing you say is you encourage young people to reach out to those networks around them. But there's this
Absolutely.
question, most young people will probably not do this of their own accord. So if you're to advise as parents, because at the moment you're speaking to us, right?
Yes,
how,
yes.
how would we support uh, how would we support our young people to do that? In fact, before we go there, the
Hmm.
one the interestingly, last week I posted something that said are you a parent that believes that there's this one way, right,
Hmm.
to your child's success, or would you like your child to explore one's way? So there is a
Mm.
difference between the one way, whatever you have for them, whatever you want them to be, to do, and their own path, which is one's path. So I know most parents here are very open, they're very open minded, and I love you guys because we are willing to learn, we are willing to open our minds, and all for the sake of our own well being as well as for the sake of our young people. And
Mhm.
this is an idea that we've been exploring. Let's not have one way, but instead support one's way. So, in this particular situation, Tamara, how can we as parents, I mean, as you've heard,
Yeah.
I'm in that situation at the moment. I don't know. I, I don't know. Daughter is here one day, the next day, uh, how?
Yep. Yeah. And that is part of that is being a partner along the journey of them choosing their own way. And you hit the nail on the head. So it's not necessarily making them or say, this is what it is. It's also being in the inquiry.
Hmm.
It's also being a partner in the exploration,
Wow.
right? Because there are things that you will find out, as part of the process. And there's something that comes from, that partnership, having them get it's okay to explore. It's okay to not have the answers.
Yeah.
That'll actually encourage them to come to you even more with things that they're finding out and get
Hmm.
excited about things, and be okay with saying, okay, mom, okay, dad, look, I tried this and you were right, or this did not work, or here's what I learned. And the key that I've seen with parents who did this successfully is that they ask the questions,
Hmm.
that allow their teenagers, um, their young ones, sometimes even younger than you would expect, to
Hmm.
start looking at things in
Hmm.
a different way. It's,
Wow.
some of them start early with bringing them with them to volunteer opportunities,
Hmm.
and sharing with them some of the bumps along the road on their career path. because by the time we've gotten to where we are, we've forgotten what it's like, when we were teenagers and trying to figure it out. And there are reasons why. There are some whys behind the things that they say. So why is it that she's interested in, in being in that particular area of medicine? Why is it, because there might be a purpose or something that drives her behind the actual title or name or profession that you as a parent will be able to support and help tease out by being a part of that journey with them. So it's, oh, wow, my daughter's really interested in making an impact in the world and helping people who are sick feel better in, whatever that looks like. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to look like being a doctor, it could look completely different. So partnering in that journey, being willing to ask questions and listen, your children the best.
Absolutely.
And so you'll be able to continue to support them by teasing things out of them and partnering with them and saying, that's interesting. That's not my area. I've never worked in that. Let's see who we can ask. Oh, wait, Aunt Jane, does this. Even now, that process benefits me. I was sharing, when I was writing the book, I was sharing it with my mom, and my mom said to me, oh, you should have your aunt read the book. She's chair of an English department of a prominent university.
Wow.
And it didn't even occur to me
wow.
to have her, read it. And I thought, wow, so even now the process is still benefiting me, much less, a teen, because there are things that we don't think about because we're in our own heads, we're limited to our own experiences. So to be willing to partner on that journey with them, makes them feel it's okay to, not have it right, and to be, to swerve a little bit and to explore. And then they can come back to you and report on some of the things, it could be fun and play, reporting in on some of the things they find out once can you believe this, mom? Oh my goodness, they have to do this. I don't like blood. I don't want to do it. The things that I've seen or heard students come back with, it's very fascinating. So, yes, I'm committed to, making sure that people who are ill feel better, but blood is not my thing. How can I, make a difference?
Wow.
So
what I'm hearing is something that we talk about here a lot, about partnering.
Yes.
You are a partner leader. You're a leader in your young person's life, but you're working in conjunction, in cooperation, and there is that partnering in this journey, which no one knows, even we don't know how it's going to be, but together, I heard you say you can explore and find out. I mean, I suggest my connections, right? If they appear to be supportive of what you want to be or what you want to do, and I always believe there is what I call the teacher within, the intuition.
Yes.
And it's very important for us parents. And I love my parents here, including myself, because we have spoken about that, encouraging our young people to listen to the tutor, the teacher within, because that teacher that gives us all life doesn't err, right? And when we encourage them to listen to that, and then we support them, then it can only be fun. I mean, of course, we are all going to drop and flop, and so many times it's part of the journey. We'll even skid sometimes, and even sometimes have scratches and bruises. But that's the fun and games of life,
Absolutely. And that's the key to it all, making them see that and making them see that that's okay. That's it. That's all of it in a nutshell. Yes, there are a lot of tips and tricks in the book for parents, so that they know, they can they have places to look, different resources.
Just the one question now. Who exactly is your main audience? Is it the parents or teens? I mean, at the moment, obviously, we are speaking to parents because
absolutely
that's who are here. do you usually speak to parents about what they should do with their teenagers, and then do you have sessions with teenagers as well?
The answer to that is both. In my speaking, in my blogs, things like that, there are resources for parents around having the conversation.
Mm.
The book, however, is written in the language of the teen, because
Ah,
the parent, it's easy for the parent to read and
mm.
extrapolate and get everything they need, whereas the teen is just starting out and might not have a particular understanding about some of these concepts, a lot of which you as the parent already know. So I encourage parents to read it so they have exposure, and in many cases a reminder of the things to coach their kids on, to support them on, and tools to be able to play with them on the journey. And so the questions they're going to be coming to you with, right? So if there's something there that says go to your parents, here are some of the resources you want to look at.
Hmm.
You as the parent can start thinking about, wow, I have all these people in my network, I have all these places that we can go to, I have all these things. So in the conversation, you can introduce ideas, you
Absolutely.
can provide suggestions, because you've gotten to where you are as phenomenal human beings, as parents. That's what I say about parenting. It is the hardest and most rewarding job, and it's definitely the position I admire the most. And
I must say, I must say, I got that book and I read it, and it was so simple to understand. And I know daughter is doing her exams at the moment, so I haven't
mhm,
handed it over to her because she'll probably think there's likely to be resistance for me
yes,
to give her something else. But at the end of this week, I will be giving it to her because all I did say was, I've got a lovely resource for you. And then,
that's exactly right. And that's why it's written the way it is,
yes,
because
and
it's written in a way so it's not coming directly from you, for one, and two, in respect to what is being said, even though it's the information you probably would say anyway.
yes,
And it's written in a language that they can understand and relate to.
it,
And I provide resources for that too on my blog and even YouTube channel, so they can feel fun and play and like see other young people, that type of thing. So that reduces the resistance or the concept of I am being told to, you are making me.
yes. And when I read it, it was so easy to, it was flowing so easily. It was written in the language. I mean, you speak to parents and you also speak to teenagers, which is
Yep,
something I do too. And I know there is I can deliver the same message to parents in a
absolutely.
totally different way. The wording, the lingo, the expressions, and to the teenagers, it's the exact same message, but
Mm-hmm.
the lingo, the expressions, the examples are completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I read it and I was feeling like a teenager as I read it. I was,
Yes,
and the
that
good
is actually
thing
the
is,
point. Yep.
and the good
So you
thing
can
was,
remember and be placed back into that space and position. So as you have the conversations, it makes it a little easier for you to relate.
absolutely. And what I'm saying, the good thing was, it was making me want to take action. Tamara saying this, Tamara saying this. It was
Yep.
really. I felt like I don't know, like when you have a guide and they're coming with you, they're cheering you 1 minute, sometimes they're asking you to do this, sometimes and it was just ebb and flow. It was so beautiful, and I would encourage everyone to grab a hold of that. And I mean, we ain't finished yet, but just in case someone wants to drop out, but make sure you come back, guys, because we've got some amazing snippets I want to ask Tamara for. But just in case you need to pick a kid or the something, or you need to, like, I know you guys have seen daughter walk in to ask me a question, say just in case there's any of that, where would people find you, Tamara?
I can be found, I want to say almost everywhere, but on social media, my handle is at Tamara S. Raymond, and that's Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and my website is I am as in Mary, C as in Charlie, leaders.com, imcleaders.com. And my personal email, if there's a burning question you have, I am happy to answer it. It's traymond@imcleaders.com.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm here for you.
Oh, brilliant. That's so good. That's so good. So we've heard how we as parents can support our teenagers as they explore. And what I'm hearing is a lot of understanding, a lot of listening, a lot of
Yes.
leaning in, a lot
Yes.
of looking around instead of fighting their wishes and their feelings and whatever they want, right? It's
Yes.
about us looking for how can I support you. You said you like to, there's something about you wanting to cut trees, right? Do I know a lumber person around here, right? Or can we research around here and look for someone who maybe you can go and observe for a day, or and it can be anything. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So
Yes.
so there's that understanding, there's that listening, there is, so it appears to me that we need to shift. we
Yep.
it's us parents, and I know my audience here have always known, and we've accepted now that we must be the change that we want to see. And for us to be credible leaders,
Absolutely.
to be influential leaders, we must be people who our followers, that is our teenagers, are wanting to look up to. So we must grow to be those people that they can admire. And that does not necessarily mean because I'm a psychologist, my daughter wants to be a psychologist. No, that's not what it means. It means that I am an open-minded person. I am a supportive person. I am a listening person. And we all know that we fall short. I know that for myself. So just to ask, what two, three things can you give to parents? Because over here, we love to take action. One of the
Yes.
things, one of the things that we never let any guests get away with is actionable steps. Why? Because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of information all over the place, right? But without action on that information, we know there can be no transformation, right?
Absolutely.
So, what actionable steps can you share with us that, that if we just go and do what you've asked us to do, we can see that tangible transformation in our lives, in our relationship with our kids? Yeah, what would you advise?
Sure. Well, you gave some pretty great tips right there. I could say I'm done. But in terms of an actionable step, it would be engaging in conversation. And life happens. We're all busy. But when your teen starts sharing and sharing around their career, it'd be great to, if you can do it in that moment, even better. But if you can't, it might be going back and saying, oh, I remember you said so-and-so, because then they also feel that they were heard. I remember you said that you were looking into, being a doctor now. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? That's exciting. That's interesting. So asking open-ended questions that don't necessarily have a good or bad judgment to them. It's like, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Why how did you come up with that today?
Yeah.
Because then you're able to tease out and hear the impact or the commitment or, just the goal behind the statements. And that will allow you to know what step to take next. If it's, oh my goodness, I had a school trip today and we did this and I just love it. It's like, wow, you loved it that much? That's amazing. Would you like us? Maybe we could look at opportunities for you to do it again. So, it's really being present, which takes something in this very busy and noisy world that we live in. And the fact that we're human beings and we have 10,000 things on our minds, so it's taking the moment to be present. If not in the moment, then making the time to be present and to ask the questions that are open-ended without judgment, to let them know that you are interested. And that supports this partnership that you're on. And then also making yourself available for certain things, or being willing to set up some structure around some of this. If your team starts volunteering or starts a particular internship or what have you, there may be some logistics around that, right? And there may be some expense around this. So that's something to consider and to plan for. And, budgeting for that to make that available, is another thing that you can do. It could be taking the bus. It could be making sure that, there's something or some form of transportation, or you maybe are available to take them to or from, especially if they're on the younger side. Being safe is something I stress. So, you as parents know this more than anyone else. So what can you put in place to make sure that they are able to fulfill on some of these action steps that they want to take, or make it available to them? There are camps, there are many free camps, many things like that. So maybe doing some research yourself. And, it could be that you have a particular budget. So there might be, oh, I want to do this camp this summer. Okay, well, that camp, is 5,000. Well, maybe you could look at an opportunity or do some research or reach out to the teacher or the guidance counselor to find one that might be comparable, that doesn't cost as much. So there are certain actions that you can take to support that. And, it could also be reaching out to your network. My daughter is interested in, shadowing a mechanic. That's something she's interested in doing. Do you know anyone that you think would be a great person for her to have a conversation with, for her to shadow, for her to possibly, get some form of experience being around them? Because then the next thing might be going to uni. What type of uni are you going to be going to? What you decide to pursue has an impact on that.
Yes.
So it's taking the actions to be a resource and then to support doing that to the best of your ability, given your resources, your time, so they actually have the opportunity to explore.
Nice.
And looking at what some of these things look like. Yes. I have no idea. I'm one of those people who might have to hire somebody to screen a light bulb. I have no idea what being a mechanic entails. So if he comes to me and says, oh, I want to be a mechanic. I've changed my tire once. I'm going to be honest with you. So, I'm going to have to do a little more digging than I would, if they said something else. So, and being okay with that and being okay with sharing that, because it shows that you're human.
Yes.
And encourages them to, want to come to you with things that they find out that you might not have known, they get really excited about that, right?
That's right.
So, yes.
Wow. So, I was writing, I was really writing these notes down here. So what I've heard you say and what I believe we heard you say, and these are just amazing points over here, is the first actionable steps that we can take today, it doesn't cost us anything, is engaging in conversations.
Yes.
engaging in conversations. And that means leaning in, listening in. Like you said, if they've just come from a trip and they said something, jump on that and let's look at it. Let's, you know, let's go for the nuggets in what they said, and let's expand those and have those conversations. Those, so that's engaging in that conversation. And then I also heard you say being available personally, and also being available, giving your time, and also considering that in many cases, and not all of them, you might have to budget for some money. For example, if you have to take them to a voluntary service that they have chosen to take on, or for example, your daughter, if you have to take her to a mechanic who says, oh, for you maybe you need to offer a contribution or something. I don't know how it goes, but it's being available to support them in any way, you know, like personally, monetary, and even engaging your networks to support them. So you might have to call your neighbor, maybe your daughter, your son, or they don't speak to your neighbor, but you can speak to the neighbor who's a hairdresser and say, oh,
Yes.
so it's that kind of availability. And then I also heard you talk about exploring this these opportunities with your young person, and more like having an open mind. So when your kid when your teenager says to you, I want to be a bird watcher, you I mean, some of us would think you're crazy, you know. Some of us from maybe I won't think that now, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're from a family of uh, of accountants and that, and then you've got this kid saying they want to be a professional bird watcher, you're thinking, what, like what? So it's being open to explore those possibilities in the knowledge that what I usually say, and I want to expand this. I know you didn't say this, but in exploring, it's it's respectful. Actually, it's quite
Yes.
respectful when your daughter or your son says to you that I would like to be a mechanic, or I would like to be a nurse, and you say to them, tell me more, how can we support you? And it's a very respectful thing. And I know you said earlier they feel hard, and this is what happens, and we all know what happens to kids when they feel heard, when they feel understood. That helps develop their self worth and their self esteem. They feel they are valuable, they feel that they are needed, they feel
Yes.
that they can contribute something. And all these points that you've given, we can do this, you know, we can do this. All we need is to be willing. I believe all we need is to be willing. And I am so excited, Tamara. And if you can just give us any last minute points, or you know, ideas. But I know you've already given us so much. And I know the parents over here are going to engage in those conversations, including myself. And we're going to be available for our young people. And we're going to help them and be partners in exploring their heart's desires with them, right? So I'm really
Very well
excited.
said.
Yeah. So,
Um, yes. So, one of the things that as parents, you you really think about, it's about the profession, but the questions that tend to show up is, are they going to be able to support themselves? Because the thing is, you want your child to be okay and be taken care of, you know, as an adult. And as some of these positions and opportunities may come up, it could be, you know, taking a look at what opportunities, what actual titles, what actual, businesses do people create from these things, instead of going to an automatic yes or an automatic no. So, there are things that I've found, such as, managing someone's social media platform. I had no idea how much people are until I did my research. And, when somebody says that, oh, if they're interested in that, or that's something that they're looking at doing as an internship, right off the bat, you might be, well, what? You want to be on the computer all day? You want to be on social media all day? But looking into things like that, um, and seeing what titles are out there, what the earning potential potentially is, and then, asking questions around that, such that they can start thinking about that type of responsibility and accountability for the future. So that's, I think, one of the key things. And I am very happy to make available one resource that I do have, which is a course that's more coaching based, and a lot longer, because the book is a pocket book, so it isn't intimidating. That was done intentionally. I want to make that available to your audience. So if they reach out to me on any platform and let me know that, they heard me on your podcast, we have a number of courses that your listeners will get 50% off on too. And I'm doing that because of the commitment that we stand for.
Oh.
And anything, if it's a question, if it's just something else that you're interested in knowing about, feel free to reach out. We're here to help.
Absolutely. Tamara, if you can just give us your contacts again, please.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. So my handle on the social media platforms is Tamara S as in Sam Raymond. So Tamara S Raymond. And I actually have a YouTube channel, the IMC channel, and the website is imcleaders.com, IMCLEADERS.com. And feel free to reach out to me. You can also email me through the website if you forget. My personal email, you can definitely reach out there. I do get those emails. I do respond as quickly as I can. So reach out. And part of it is continue in these conversations that Angie has and that we're able to participate in, to remember that, yes, the teens aren't alone, but neither are parents.
So guys, I'm going to drop those links on here so you can click on them and go straight to Tamara. And I want you to follow Tamara. Ask those questions. Ask them. I always encourage us to ask those deep questions, to challenge someone. We know over here we just don't take just information just because it's been given. We like to challenge, we like to explore, we like to evaluate. And that's why I love the parents that listen to this, because we want to learn and we want to develop and we want to be game changers, right? And I know you're going to hound Tamara in a good way. And
absolutely.
If you've got anything that you did not understand in careering, just email Tamara or just go to any of her handles, as she said, and let's follow up. And then once we get that information, that correct information, let's put it into action so we can see the transformation that we so want, because we know we want, and we are unapologetically wanting to raise highly effective teenagers, right, guys? Tamara, if you can say bye to everyone, and I'm going to say a last bye as well.
Wonderful. Thank you all for playing with us and for listening to us today. It was so much fun. Thank you so much. And who I say I am in the world is someone who helps develop highly effective and fully expressed leaders. And to hear Angie speak to that over and over again, this is definitely a great place to be and a great resource. So I hope you continue watching or listening to the podcast, and definitely reach out to me if there's anything I can support you in. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for being part of this, for playing along and having fun with us, right? And again, if you haven't joined this movement, Raising Remarkable Teenagers, I really encourage you to get on there right now and go to www.raisingremarkableteenagers.com/class, and you will find a free masterclass there, and we're giving you access because we value you, we hear you, and we love you, because that's what we are here for. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, go take action on that information that we've provided so we can get the transformation that we so want. All the best, guys. Bye now.